I'm Claire. I'm 38. And I think I made the biggest mistake of my life. I'm not dramatic by nature. I'm a therapist, actually. I spend most of my days helping people understand their feelings, untangle the messes in their hearts. But lately, I can't even understand my own. I told myself I was okay with this, that I could handle it, that I was being modern, evolved, brave. We agreed to open our marriage, and now he's spending our anniversary weekend with a 25-year-old law student named Amelia, while I'm here, talking to you, trying to pretend I don't feel like I'm slowly unraveling. It didn't start this way. God, no. If you had asked me 5 years ago, I would have told you Daniel and I were the couple. The ones who held hands at parties long after it stopped being cute. The ones who had inside jokes and late-night dance parties in the kitchen. We were safe together. Not in a boring way, more like a breath you didn't know you were holding kind of way. He used to press his lips to the back of my neck while I brushed my teeth, whisper something ridiculous like, "You're the sexiest toothpaste girl I've ever seen," and I'd laugh, toothpaste foaming out of my mouth. He was silly like that. Affectionate. We couldn't keep our hands off each other for the first 7 years. I remember one grocery store trip where he pulled me into the cleaning supplies aisle just to kiss me like we were teenagers. I knocked over a display of bleach bottles and we laughed for hours. But somewhere between work deadlines, aging parents, and our own quiet resentments, that closeness became something else. Last winter, we were lying on the couch, our legs tangled, a blanket over us. It looked intimate, I guess. But when he kissed my forehead, it felt like routine, like muscle memory. And when I leaned into him, he kept checking his phone, the glow lighting up the sharp angle of his jaw. He wasn't really there. I tried to talk to him about it. He said maybe we just needed to shake things up. Try something different. Something bold. He brought up non-monogamy like it was this shiny new theory. He cited articles, sent me podcasts. It doesn't have to mean we're broken, he said. It could actually make us stronger. I said yes because I thought maybe he was right. Maybe the version of love that stays wild and intimate after 15 years just looks different. Maybe letting go a little would bring us closer. And at first, it did feel like a secret only we shared. We had rules, boundaries. We checked in constantly. He held me close the first night he went out, told me he loved me and that he was mine no matter what. I believed him. But the check-ins started getting shorter. The goodnight texts, less frequent. The hugs? They started to feel conditional. Like he'd give me one just because it was what he was supposed to do, not because he wanted to. And when we kissed, there was this breath between us. Like space that didn't used to be there. Then there was that morning, 2 weeks ago. I made coffee, like always. Our mugs were waiting side by side on the counter. He came into the kitchen, shirtless, smiling down at his phone. He barely looked up when he said, "I think I'm gonna spend the weekend in Santa Barbara with Amelia." I just stood there, holding the coffee pot. Our anniversary was that weekend. 17 years. He looked up, finally, and his face changed like he'd remembered mid-sentence. "Oh," he said. "I forgot that was our weekend. Do you mind if we shift plans?" That was the moment. Not the open marriage. Not the nights he spent with other people. Not even the kiss on the forehead that used to make me feel adored and now made me feel like a houseplant he was remembering to water. It was the forgetting. The fact that he forgot our anniversary meant something more painful than cheating or experimenting or even loving someone else. It meant that somewhere along the line, I had stopped being central in his world. That what was once sacred to both of us was now just an oversight. That's when I realized maybe we didn't open our marriage. Maybe we just opened the door for him to walk further and further away from me. And now I'm sitting here, alone. Drinking the coffee I poured into both mugs anyway. And I'm wondering how long I've been pretending this still feels like love. Daniel's a pediatrician. He's used to putting on a brave face in front of worried parents and sick kids, always the calm in the storm. But when he comes home, Sometimes I feel like he carries that same professional armor with him, and it's like I'm invisible behind it. Last night was a perfect example. We had just finished dinner, takeout sushi, his favorite, and I was sitting on the couch scrolling through my phone, feeling that familiar tightness in my chest I've been trying to ignore. Daniel settled beside me, reaching out with a tired smile. "Hey," he said softly, sliding an arm around my shoulders. I leaned into him, but it felt different than it used to. His touch was heavy, almost urgent, like he wanted to erase the distance between us with his hands. His fingers dug into my skin, not harsh, but not gentle either. I flinched slightly, pulling back just a bit. "Are you okay?" he asked, voice laced with concern. "I'm fine," I said, but I wasn't. I wanted to tell him I didn't need his hands so much as I needed his words. I needed him to see me, to ask how I was really doing, to tell me he missed me, not just touch me like he was trying to fix something broken. Instead, I swallowed the lump in my throat. I let him hold me, even though my heart was screaming for more than skin-deep comfort. "You're so tense," Daniel said, rubbing small circles on my back. "You've been stressed at work, haven't you?" He was right, of course. But what I wanted to say was, "I'm stressed because I feel like I'm losing you." "I'm just tired," I muttered, trying to push the conversation away. Daniel leaned in to kiss my temple, and I closed my eyes. The kiss was soft but rushed. His lips barely lingered. It felt less like an expression of love and more like a checkbox he wanted to tick before moving on to something else. I wanted to pull him close, to hold him until I felt safe again. But instead, I pulled back and suddenly the room felt colder. Later, when I asked him why he couldn't just talk to me like he used to, he looked surprised. "I'm showing you I love you," he said quietly. "Isn't this enough?" "No," I said. "Not right now. I need you to be here with me. Not just touch me. See me." He nodded slowly, but I could tell he didn't quite understand. It was like we were speaking different languages. I'm craving emotional connection, the late-night talks, the shared silences that feel like belonging, while he's offering me physical closeness, hoping it will fill the gaps. And maybe it could, if I could let myself believe it's enough. But right now, it isn't. Not when it feels like the distance between us is growing every day, and the anniversary he forgot is just one symptom of a deeper fracture I don't know how to mend. That night, Daniel came up behind me while I was folding laundry. He wrapped his arms around my waist and gave a quick, playful slap on my hip, the kind of gesture that used to make me laugh. But this time, I stiffened. I didn't pull away, but I didn't lean in either. It was like my body didn't know how to respond. "Hey," he said softly, nuzzling my neck. "You're tense again." "Come on, just relax." I forced a smile and rested my hands lightly on his forearms, but inside, I was recoiling. I wanted to melt into him like I used to feel that spark that made everything else fade away. But the spark wasn't there. When he pulled me close for a kiss, I closed my eyes, hoping to find some warmth. Instead, it felt empty. His lips moved against mine, but my heart wasn't in it. I felt like I was watching from the outside, detached, like a spectator to a scene I once loved but no longer recognized. "Claire? You okay?" Daniel whispered, pulling back slightly. "I'm just tired," I said, swallowing the lump forming in my throat. He frowned, searching my face. "Is this about us? About the open marriage?" I shook my head, unsure how to explain the ache I felt, the confusion, the frustration. "I don't know anymore," I said quietly. We were supposed to have a quiet anniversary dinner at home. Daniel had cooked salmon, lit candles, and even put on some soft jazz. Everything looked perfect on the surface, but I felt like I was drowning beneath it. He reached for my hand across the table, smiling that familiar smile. "I missed you today," he said. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But instead, the words burst out of me like they'd been locked away too long. "Did you really?" I whispered, my voice cracking. "Because it feels like you missed us. Like you don't even want to be here tonight." His smile faltered. "Claire, I can't do this anymore," I said, tears spilling down my cheeks. We agreed to open our marriage, and now you're spending our anniversary with some 25-year-old law student, and you can't even pretend to care how that makes me feel. He looked stunned. His eyes darkened with something I couldn't read: hurt, anger, confusion. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he stood abruptly and walked away from the table. I sat there, chest heaving, guilt twisting inside me like a knife. What had I just done? Was I being selfish? Jealous? Was this what I'd become? But all I could think was, why did we ever think this would work? Days passed like heavy fog. The house felt quieter, colder, like the warmth between us had been packed away, folded neatly and put on a high shelf where neither of us could reach it. Daniel barely spoke, and when he did, his words were clipped, careful, like he was afraid to break something fragile. I watched him more closely now, the way his shoulders sagged when he thought I wasn't looking, the tired lines etched deeper around his eyes. He wasn't some villain out to hurt me. He was just a man carrying his own kind of pain. I missed him fiercely, but every time I tried to bridge the silence, the words tangled in my throat. How do you reach someone who's already pulling away? How do you tell the person you love that you're drowning in loneliness, while also trying not to push them further out? One night, I found him sitting at the kitchen table, staring blankly at a cup of cold coffee. I hesitated, then sat down across from him. "Daniel," I said softly. He looked up, surprised, as if he'd forgotten I was there. "I miss you," I confessed, voice shaky. He swallowed hard, then nodded. "I miss you too." The honesty hung between us, fragile and raw. I knew we were both hurting, and maybe that was the first step. But the question remained, heavy and loud in my chest. Do I want to try again? Or is this the moment I finally let go? That night, Daniel didn't come to bed. I found him curled up on the couch, the soft hum of the TV filling the silence between us. I hesitated, then sat down beside him, careful not to wake him. His breathing was slow, steady, so familiar, so achingly close, yet so distant. I reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead. He stirred but didn't open his eyes. Instead, he shifted slightly, leaning into my hand like a fragile truce. It wasn't the passion we once had. It wasn't the fire or the reckless joy of falling in love. It was something quieter. A sadness that said, we tried, but maybe some things don't come back. I rested my head gently against his shoulder and whispered, "I'm sorry." For the first time in a long while, there was no anger, no frustration, just the soft weight of what we lost and what we couldn't hold on to. I don't know what tomorrow holds for us, but in that stillness, I felt the faintest flicker of peace. Maybe love changes, maybe it fades, but it's never simple. And sometimes, that's enough to keep going even if it's only for now. For point one mini, if you'd asked me what I thought love was before all this, I'd have said it was easy, something you just feel and hold onto without question. But now I know that love is complicated. It's messy. It's messy and beautiful and painful all at once. I learned that desire isn't just about touch or passion. It's about being seen, really seen, and feeling safe enough to let someone in over and over again. I learned that emotional intimacy is a fragile thread we have to nurture, even when life gets in the way. When that thread frays, no amount of physical closeness can fully replace it. Whether Daniel stayed or left, it doesn't change what I've discovered about myself. I'm not broken. I'm human. And maybe that's the hardest thing to admit, that sometimes loving someone means knowing when to hold on, and sometimes it means knowing when to let go. So, if you're listening to this and wondering if you're enough or if your love is enough, remember this. Love isn't always the fairy tale we want it to be, but it's always worth the fight, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, because in the end, it's what makes us feel alive. And that, more than anything, is what truly matters. 12.